Okay, we had a question on how to get some puzzle pieces from a picture file into a cut file. And there are several different techniques I tried, so I'll show them to you and try not to take too long since we're almost out of time. But first I'll do a new screen, and I saved the files to my computer, so I'm going to use a pixel trace to bring in. We'll start with, let's say, the heart. And you see the image over here, and I'll click on Open, and it looks like a pretty clean lines there, so I'll click on Import and finish tracing. So I have the puzzle pieces here, and they have inside lines and outside lines. So one way to do this is to take the layer, which is Control+L, and send the layer to a different screen. I'll make them some different colors so we can see them. We now have kind of an outline of the shape that's blue here, and then we have the pieces here. I'm going to split the pieces to get rid of this scissors, which I don't need in the design. And I'll split this to get rid of these. So now we're just working with the heart. And I kind of like to keep that outside line for maybe a template for the user to put the pieces on to show how it's going to end up once the pieces are put together. But the problem that I see with these pieces is that they don't, when you have them all separated and you want to put them together as a puzzle, you would put them next to each other and they might not necessarily all line up real good. Maybe they will, but maybe they won't, because the pieces are all separated by a little space. So that could work, you could try it, but I think you're going to end up with some pieces like over here where they just don't seem to fit. And right here, these are joined together where they don't work too well. I'm going to use my Control-Z and get back to where we were. So these pieces you could use kind of as they are. I'd want to, but then do a shadow layer to make them bigger. The only problem with making them bigger is that you end up, even if these were touching each other, when you're cutting them out, you're going to get double cut lines. So this line is going to cut, and then this line's going to cut, and you have double lines. So rather than take the time to do this, what I did before was just go to the shadow layer and give it a 0.028 thickness and accept that, then hide this yellow piece and take it maybe to red, and you can see that the pieces are closer together, but I still don't think I would want to do it that way, just because it would be double cutting all those lines, and the more that you try to cut over something that's already cut, you take a chance of having messy cut lines. So instead, I like to do it a little differently, and I'll open a new page here and show you the next shape. In the interest of time, another way I would do it on the circle is to bring in the circle design and click on, maybe I'll make it a little bit thicker, and import. And on this, you notice that this circle is a really rugged circle, and if I were doing a puzzle, and when I was young I used to love to do tangrams, what I would want to do though is have nice clean circle to start with. So what I would do is go to Import Basic Shape, double click the circle, hold Control-Shift to get me another one, because I want one circle for the inside and one for the outside. This one I think It needs to be about 7 inches. Let me see, 7. That's about right. And then this one needs to be about 2 inches. I'll make these even numbers. And I'll send each to their own layer, to each its own. And maybe make this back one dark, and this one, it could be dark too, but make it a little lighter so I know which one it is. And I could separate all this if I want, but mostly what I want to do is stack these, and I'm going to make them really light colors here so we can see through the original shapes. I could make this a green mat. And basically what I want is I want to see the original design lines through my circles. And I'm just simply going to redraw the lines. It's much quicker for me to redraw a line. I'll click on the larger of the 2 green plus icons to add a new layer, and this is where my cutting lines will be. I click on the Bezier draw, left click here, and right click here, and what I'm doing is drawing to the outside line, keeping my eye on this center line where the original lines were. So left click to start, find the position, and right click to end, and then left click to start here, right click to end. Click on my arrow up here and select all those lines I just drew and join them. So now if I hide this original shape, then what I have is all the pieces will cut directly on these lines. All the pieces will fit snugly together. And if I want to be really careful about this, if I had more time, I would just zoom in, typing 4 and 3. So I would make sure that these lines are all perfectly lined up or centered where I want them to be. So that's the circle, and simply a lot of times it's just so much easier for me just to draw the lines in where they need to be using the original as a guide. Then the next one would be the egg shape. So again, we'll click on the selection tool, click on pixel trace, and get the egg tangram, and make sure all the lines are connected. I'll move the threshold up a bit and apply, and then import. So I have a design here. I'll zoom in a little bit, and I really don't need the outside lines, but I could just click on blackout here. So I've got this shape, but I'm going to undo it first because I want a copy of it, and then I'll black it out. I can split this or this one to get rid of the extra pieces here that I don't need. I don't need this, delete it, and I don't need this, I'll delete that. So this would be the piece that I want to divide, and again I can just lay it over, add a new layer, click on my Bezier draw, and I like Bezier draw because I can just click, I don't have to drag. So I'm going to left click here where this line should intersect the outer circle, left click up at the top, right on the line, and at the end of the line, right click. Then I'll make this line, I'm going to start on my outside lines, left click and right click. Then I'm going to left click here, right click, and left click and right click. So if I hide this original line, then again, I think what I'll do is select the top layer with my cutting lines and join them so I can kind of see them easier. And now I have my design ready to cut. Now this outside line isn't perfect, and that would kind of bother me, but I could do what Brian did earlier, and that was to shrink it and smooth angles and then bring it out again. It would be more smooth as I did over here. You can see that the line is much more smooth, less bumpy, and I would like that better, although you probably couldn't notice if you cut it out this way. But actually, to do that, I just select it, I come up here to type in 10%, 10%, enter. Whoops, I didn't do it right. I'll undo. 10% and enter. Oh, I got the wrong ones, of course. Hide this and hide this. And then go down here to the auto simplify path, and it reduced the number of nodes by 84+%. Then I'm going to do the 10% R and enter. And then all I need to do is pretty much stack this. I select all of it to get it back where it needs to be, and I have my design ready to cut, again with single line cuts, and they're very precise. And there are other ways to do it, but this I found is the quickest and the most precise. Do we have any questions?
There are no questions. So thank you very much. Only because we're in kind of a rush here. Well, we have a few minutes. So there's only one additional question on the thread. Does anybody have a question for Julie before we switched over to the next question? I don't see any coming in, and I don't see any raised hands. Okay, so thank you very much, Julie. I'm going to switch back over to